To Scott and Shane here on Prepper Talk Radio, brought to you by Survival Medical, survival-medical.com. The only first aid kit tougher than nature. First Aid Evolves. Go check them out. We sure appreciate their sponsorship. And of course, our guest is Tyler White. So happy to have you here, Tyler. It's been a while since since PrepperCon. Last time I saw you, I think. And
been busy.
Yeah. Welcome back. By the way, listeners, make sure you, in addition to checking out Survival Medical, check out our Facebook page. It's really easy to find, Prepper Talk Radio, but also check out our homepage, prepercon.com. We're going to continue to do more videos and share content that we find that's relevant. So you'll see links there to Tyler's information, to ReadyMan, to Survival Medical, and also to the K-Talk website. And we're going to continue to grow and expand that just to be resource heavy, so you know where to start. You know, a lot of the times the big question is, well, what do I do? How do I get going on this? And so I'm going to pose that question to you, Tyler. You know, for someone who's, okay, I want to get into this now. I'm interested now in more of the primitive skills. How do they start? Where do they start?
So, you know, there's a bunch of different ways. Even though we need to do this stuff in real life, one of the best places, honestly, to start is YouTube. There is so much content on YouTube, but be careful of who you're getting the content from, because there's a lot of people that will go out and learn a skill and then make a video of it the next day. And when you watch their videos, someone who's seasoned sees a video like that and they just cringe and they realize how horrible it is. Everyone else doesn't notice this. It's kind of like someone who's good at playing the violin. Here's someone who just learned, and you can tell the differences. So YouTube's a good place. Another place, ReadyMan.com, my place I work with, there is a ton of stuff, and all the people that put content there are vetted. The guy that owns it is a Special Forces Green Beret that vets all of that.
he's been on here many times.
Yeah, good dude.
We love Jeff.
Good dude. So, so there's that. Now, what I would say is pick something like fire.
Something that interests you.
Yeah, pick something that's going to drive you.
Yeah.
Like, and I usually, I was saying earlier, I usually like fire. Go learn how to do a bow drill. Get good at it. Understand you're going to fail a bunch of times. Even when you're good at it, you fail until you can kind of get that drill cut the right way so that it's making the char the way it's supposed to. But once you get a good bow drill kit dialed in, it's a fire maker. I mean, it'll just knock holes out all day long. So learn how to do that. Once you get good at that, pick another fire thing like the hand drill. Then pick the fire piston, then flint and steel, and then get into all the crazy things. So once you think your bucket's full of fire, go work on shelters. Learn how to make shelters. There's one-man shelters, 2 or 3-man shelters. Shelters that do and don't include fire. There's winter shelters, summer shelters, shelters in the desert with ponchos, shelter in the mountain with wood. There's tons of shelters. And I say shelters because it's probably more important than fire, actually. If you wear the right clothes and you shelter yourself, in most environments you don't need fire. Fire is a nicety, at least not on the first night. So pick something, get good at it. Pick something else, get good at it. And then just don't stop. Let this become a bit of a hobby or a lifestyle that you integrate into your existing thing. When you go out backpacking, say, you know what, I'm going to bring a lighter because I'm not dumb, but I'm going to also do friction fire while I'm there. I'm going to work on it until I get it. And there's something about challenges. Challenges are rewarding, and that reward or that sense of achievement is kind of the spice of life. It's why we do things. Yeah. There's nothing in life that's awesome that wasn't hard.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, talking about, when you go out, take your big lighter with you, but you want to learn how to make the hand drill fire, the bow drill fire.
It's smart, but not because you need it.
There you go. But I'm also wondering, okay, would you take your fire kit with you, or you're saying, okay, you use what you find out in wherever you're at, use that, even though it may not be ideal, because obviously, if you're out in a pine forest, it's going to be harder to make a bow drill fire.
Yeah, don't be afraid to take your bow drill kit with you. I take a hand drill kit with me all the time. Once you start getting better at this stuff, you realize what can be reliable. I have what's called a VersaCloth. It's a 4x4 sheet of cloth that I put water and maybe a knife, like something to eat, and some fire, and I'll put that in a waistband. Yeah, just wrap it in a waistband.
So it's kind of like a shemagh.
Yeah, it's like a shemagh. It goes around your waist. For me, it's more comfortable to wear it there than any modern anything that I have. I mean, I would gladly wear a Camelback, but I prefer to do this because I can run with half a gallon of water and fire and tools around my waist. It doesn't restrict my upper body. It just helps me to move. I'm very utilitarian.
Do you have something like that on your site?
Yeah, if you watch my YouTube channel, T-Jack Survival, you're going to see me wearing this thing all of the time, especially if you see my running videos. Whenever I run, I specifically grab this Versa cloth. And Versa, just, versatile piece of cloth. It's just a linen 4x5 or 4x4 square. Something I picked up from Matt Graham and a friend of his and a friend of mine.
Good old Matt Graham.
Yeah, Matt's a stud.
He's awesome. He's fun. He's one of the guys that's just, he's a little
Chill. He's a lot
chill.
chill.
He'll get super energetic
Oh, yeah.
about the most primitive skills, and so it makes it fun to learn.
And I've got a bunch of videos with him on my channel as well. I try to bring people like that because I'll never have his knowledge base. He's forgotten more than I may ever know. So if I can put him on my YouTube channel, because my channel is about the skills. It's not about me. I had someone complaining that I was bringing other people into my channel. I'm like, why in the world wouldn't I do that? These guys are way better than me. I'll start bringing that.
That's why we brought you on our radio show.
There you go.
You got knowledge base that we don't have, and Matt's got a knowledge base you don't have.
Yeah.
Well, we expose ourselves when we try and talk about those types of things, just like you're saying with the violin.
Yeah.
We may be new to the violin, and
there's nothing wrong with that because you're seeking after it. It would only be wrong if you were out there trying to teach it when you really had no clue.
Yep.
And you gotta teach.
or at least saying that I'm someone you can rely on teaching that. Because I'm going to teach my kids, even when I don't know exactly what I'm talking about.
But that's
it's
also
a
going to
platform
help you get better at it. You get your practice. I mean, that's how I learned.
But don't make yourself come across as a master of something.
And always reference your source. Like I always try to mention the people that taught my stuff. Like Mikhail Mercury and Troy Roper taught me how to do the hand drill. My friend Jake taught me how to do the bow drill. And then another friend taught me how to do it better and how to do it smaller. And then I've kind of taken as I go, I take all the little tips and tricks from each different people and I use what I think works best for different materials and stuff.
So you're saying put down your electronic devices, go out in the bush.
You can take them with you.
Okay.
But make sure you go out in the bush. They may not work as well out
Because
there.
you may have to watch your videos
You got to
out
Instagram that amazing hand drill that you just made.
there. Yeah, absolutely. That would be cool.
Tweet tag.
Pictures here, it didn't happen.
That's right. If you didn't tweet it, it didn't happen, right?
You guys, I'm Snapchatting my new bow drill. There you go.
Yeah.
Put a face on it.
Proof.
There's so many things. It's funny. There's so many things going on in the world. It's easy to have one specific viewpoint on prepping or bushcrafting, and as soon as you start doing it or you give it a shot, it changes that perspective. I mean, you mentioned during the break kind of the paradigm shift. If you
Exactly.
could share that again, I think it's
So the paradigm shift is a piece of information that's given to you that changes. You look at the whole world through a lens or through a window. And when your paradigm shifts, that window is expanded. And once it's expanded, you can no longer look at the world the same. So as an example, if you thought that you couldn't survive without a knife, and I said, yes, you can, here's people doing it all the time, it's actually pretty easy, your paradigm has changed. And you can now say, you know what, I don't need a knife. Now, I got a knife on me right now. I've always got a
nice
knife
big
on me.
one.
Yeah, it's pretty
Couple
freaking sweet.
You have to have something.
A Bark River
Bark River, cool.
Aurora. So I'm all for knives, but they aren't a need. They're a very, very nice thing to have. Probably the #1 survival prepping anything tool out there, but they're not a need. And once you understand that, you become a little more relaxed about this stuff. It's less anxiety. You can eat that elephant one bite at a time.
right. And the key is taking away the anxiety and replacing it with knowledge.
With confidence,
Yeah.
and with knowledge. So you get your base level. Like we talked a little bit earlier, you wanted me to cover some tools and stuff and tips and things that people should use. I think the base level always, especially here in the desert, is going to be a water-containing device of some sort that can be boiled. I like those clean canteens. I have the big 64-ounce one because I can take a bandana.
So clean with a K, right?
Yeah, K-L, I think it's K-L-E-A-N. I think they spell it a little funny, but it's clean canteen.
Okay.
And you can get water out of the creek. You can boil it. You can use a bandana to pull that off, or 2 sticks or whatever. Let it cool down, and you got a half a gallon. So you do that twice a day, and you're drinking a gallon a day, and that's all the water you need a day. And then, so a clean canteen, shelter needs to be your #1. I kind of skipped over that, but the shelter is just: did you wear the right clothes? Do you have a jacket? Do you have clothes that will make it through the night tonight? You should always have that. I don't know how many people get stranded up in the mountains. When I was a mountaineering guide, they would get stranded up on the mountains and freeze to death because the temperature change was so drastic between day and night. They're up there trail running, and now they're freezing to death because they twisted an ankle or something. So.
And all they're carrying is a few liters of water.
And it's not that hard to put an ultralight jacket in your pocket that weighs ounces. I mean, that alone may be the difference between living and dying. Or primitive skills.
I did an experiment just a few weeks ago when we did the Ready Man Challenge. Instead of taking a sleeping bag, I just took the Survival Frog baby bag.
Yeah.
And all it is a Mylar blanket that's sealed on both sides.
A little bit thicker quality.
Yeah, not really. I mean, there's different types of Mylar blanket. I mean, it was just a standard Mylar blanket. It wasn't the cheap, hey, go buy it for $1 from Emergency Essentials. I'll plug those guys. But it wasn't anything like wow, right?
But it was the difference between I shivered through the night and I died.
Actually, I got cold.
Yeah, you got cold, but you didn't die.
No, but here's why. I got so warm in there that I perspired, and then all my moisture got to the top of it while I'm sleeping.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden I get cold, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm sweating. I sweat in here.
Yeah, you get wet.
It was so warm, and so I'm like, crap, I got to layer down. And then, actually, like a jackwagon, I grabbed my heat source and I started my stove and I cooked my breakfast early, and I just threw it in there for just a second to dry it out. It was awesome. But then as I was coming out, I got the corner and I just melted the whole thing.
You melted it, yeah.
But
I'm not
awesome.
a friend of Mylar at all. The best thing, in my opinion, being a soldier is a whoopee, which is a podcast.
And welcome back to the show. You're listening to Prepper Talk Radio here on AM 1640 K-Talk. Thanks for joining us. We sure love doing this. Probably more for our own benefit, honestly. Like we've said before, when you teach, you learn. I mean, that's mostly when I learn, when I find myself teaching others. So our guest here is Tyler White. Tyler, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Of course, let me plug Survival Medical, survival-medical.com. First aid kits, tougher than nature, designed to last really up to 20 years.
Now,
Add them to your
about
storage.
where a little bit about your background, military and things like that, and that we can find you on TJAC Survival. Where else are you contributing right now? I know Ready Man's a huge one.
Ready Man's probably the main place I'm contributing. I've been putting about 12 to 20 videos there per month. It's just taking up all of my off time. But what we're trying to do is build a database of how-tos. So everything from Boy Scouts to adults, because you do stuff a little bit different. You're going to teach a Boy Scout a bow drill a little bit differently than an adult. But it's bow drills and hand drills and canoeing and knots and just a ton of different topics. And I try to drive most of it from the Ready Man Facebook page. If someone gets on there and says, hey Tyler, I want to know how to gut a fish, I want to know how to skin a rabbit or make a hand drill kit or whatever it is, or build a shelter, and I will add that to my to-do list. And then when I have a day off, I go out and film up a tutorial on that and get it edited and posted. So Ready Man's probably the best place. In fact, a good way, my landing page is tylerwhite.readyman.com. Just tylerwhite.readyman.com. And you can drop in there and look at all those videos. Last year I went with Bushcraft Global and Tops Knives to Colombia, to the jungle.
Wow.
And I got some amazing footage down there. We were there with the Métis, and the Métis are a indigenous tribe that were only discovered in the late 70s. So the two dudes that were with us, one of them was like 3 years old, and the other one was 4 years old when the first white man visited his village. So we're getting knowledge straight from the source. I've got a bunch of video footage of them. And they'll go in with just a machete and this little necklace thing that has their poisonous darts on it to an area. And by that night, they'll have hammocks built and shelters out of the big banana leaves, and they'll have the friction fire built from a hand drill. They'll be out hunting monkeys and fishing with they fish with machetes. They just walk on the side and hit it with the machete. There's other. They make these little bows that are really cool. But the funniest thing, he just walks over and he looks in the water and goes whack, and just chops that fish in half and pulls it out with his machete, and whatever works. But yeah, I've got tons of footage there, and I'm not the only one. There's multiple contributors there. There's a bunch of other very vetted and high-speed people, special forces people, cops, soldiers, Marines, all sorts of stuff. Medical professionals, all doing prepper professionals. It's just this huge.
Well, I mean, they've got fighters teaching proper fight techniques.
Yeah, you got Josh on there.
Yeah, they've got Josh.
Fit and yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, it's truly one of the best go-to courses for proper training.
Yeah,
there's a lot of places you can go for garbage training.
Well, and that's why it's a paid site. It's not very much. I think it's less than Netflix, if I remember correctly. And it just gives you access to this huge database of information, and it gives you one-on-one contact to the people that you can go to and say, hey, I want to know this skill, will you make me that video?
Yeah, you don't have to jump on YouTube and question, okay, what is this guy? How does he know?
Do they have
how does he know? How do I know he's doing this the right way, or the best way.
Yeah, and the way that I was brought into it is I'm in the 19th Special Forces here locally, and being very, very interested in primitive skills, I get brought out on the little survival experiences that I do. I'll be brought on to help SEER refreshers, courses, or just go teach land nav. And because of that, they came to me and said, hey, look, we need someone that can do primitive skills specifically. So the majority of my content, literally the first thing I made was how to make a bow drill from scratch. How to do a hand drill was the next one. We went into shelters, how to make cordage from the plants around you, how to make clay is what I'm working on, how to make an at-level dart. All this stuff, I'll go out and kind of systematically go through fire, water, shelter, food, which is going to be hunting, so there's trap videos on there, and just build up the database. And that way, once you get access to this, you can log on there and look at whatever you want and dig through my stuff and other people's shooting pages, and they've got art-related stuff. There's like the man spot, dudes with beards and hipsters running around doing their thing.
Man hack as well. You've done a lot of those man hack videos.
I actually did a lot of man hack videos. A bunch of them I did in the jungle. They just showing how to make kindling out of bamboo, or how to fish using your canteen was another one I did, and used one of those little survival cards, the fishing survival cards that Rayman sells. I pulled some. They were the smallest fish in the world, but I pulled them out of the Amazon.
You still got them.
I only spent a little bit of time dying. It was funny because the big fish that we got, we pulled out of the tributaries to the Amazon. The little itty bitty, like 3 or 4 inch ones, I just pulled those all day out of the big river. It was a little bit irony.
That's definitely jealous. I don't know if I want to spend time in the Amazon there. I'd probably get some kind of crazy infection or something.
Yeah, I got a wart on my foot.
Oh, you did?
Of all the random things.
So you were somewhere which you can't say just a couple of weeks ago.
I may have
for a couple of weeks. You may have been somewhere that you cannot or cannot say until later on. But it's something that's going to come out. Was it Discovery or History or what?
I really
you
can't
even
answer
say.
that
Okay.
question.
All right. Cool. So in November-ish, has been working on something with some channel somewhere. That will come out sometime in November, apparently.
There you go.
Watch on
I bet if you watch my YouTube channel, when
Okay.
I can actually talk about that kind of stuff, that things might pop up.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
So he's in demand, and he's a great resource. So what I want to try and talk about today a lot is really, and we've touched on it, is why bushcraft? I mean, like you say, it is kind of a basis where we start, and we don't always find ourselves in those types of environments, but they're a basis for even urban survival.
Before we go into why bushcraft, let's talk about what bushcraft is.
No, perfect.
Because in the U.S., it's not a common term.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different terms that people mix together. So let's define those real quick. If you're a soldier and you know how to load a ruck properly, how to deal with blisters, how to do land navigation, that's fieldcraft. Okay. Fieldcraft is dealing with your weapons and all that fun stuff. Bushcraft is a term that came from Australia, and it was literally crafting things while in the bush because they don't really have trees down there for the most part. And that got brought over into Europe and England. And so any go into the woods and building a Burtonsville rig to hold your pot over a fire and constructing a raised bed out of logs, that's going to be considered bushcraft. We would call that here in the U.S. Fieldcraft, I guess it's kind of the Army. We would call it more woodcraft, or we used to call it woodcraft in the 1800s.
Wilderness living skills is one of the terms that we use. But
when you get into wilderness living skills, it's almost used synonymously with primitive skills, which means you don't have any modern tools at all. So you go out, you break a rock, and then give you a sharp edge, and then you learn how to cut the fibers on the outside of the stick, and that becomes your axe, and you flint knap, and eventually use pitch to create glue and make arrows and bows, and you hunt and trap and do everything literally with nothing. People forget the fact that you actually don't need a knife. Everyone raves about I would never leave without my knife. But even that is a nice thing to have because it speeds up the whole process. Because the first thing you always need is a knife. But even that is not a requirement. If you learn how to...
Learn the skills.
Yeah. So the skills should be the base thing. So we talked a little bit urban versus the wilderness. I go out in the wilderness a lot. That's my preferred element. But I've done, we did some videos with Blade HQ, did some urban stuff. I've got an urban bug out video. If you type in TJAC Survival Urban Bug Out, that'll pop up. And, excuse me, we went out and did a lot of urban stuff. But like I was saying earlier, you find a ton of plants in the urban environments. There's a ton of stuff you can eat. You got to be careful eating stuff out of people's yards because you don't know what they poison. But even along the Provo River here, you can go down there and find apple trees that are left over from old homesteads and cattails where you can eat the roots. And I'll go running along the Provo, and I'll come back full of food because I caught a fish while I was down there, or I grabbed some apples or purslane or whatever it is that I'm finding on the river.
I go running to get food. That's true fast food right there. I'm running up the Provo River. I'm hungry. Oh, brook trout. There we go.
Especially where we're at, there's like plums and apples and everything. You may or may not grab some food from people's trees. Usually they thank me because I'm cleaning up their fruit.
Hanging over the fence.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, there's tons of stuff there. The other thing too is all of the type of woods that are going to be best for bow drills and hand drills and those type of things are usually found along the river because they're softer woods, they grow faster. So yeah, a lot of the really good bushcraft stuff is in the cities. There's always the rivers, and those same skills apply. If you were to get an earthquake right now, where you're sitting right at this point, what would you do? I mean, that's kind of an easy question. And if you don't have, I don't know, maybe you're naked in the shower, right? Something bad happens, and now you're naked and afraid, right? So you got to know what to do. And although that's where all those bushcraft skills. If I need a knife, I'll make one. If I need a shelter,
I wonder if that was a plug to what he's going to be on.
Yeah, no. I keep getting asked about naked and afraid, and I tell them, well, when they call it banana hammock and afraid, then we'll talk. So,
it's funny. I've got a few friends that.
Well, you never know; they blur it out.
Yeah,
I've got a few friends
that
are wilderness adventurous, and they're always talking about how they keep getting asked season after season after season, and season after season after season. They're like, don't you understand? I keep saying no for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't need to be exposed.
Who came up with that idea anyway? I mean,
it's a good idea from one half of the perspective, and it's just a horrible idea from the other half of the perspective.
Oh yeah.
From the viewing perspective, it's a horrible idea.
Well, yeah, there's some things that shouldn't be seen, but in all honesty, stripping someone down to nothing, that's they have to do primitive
It's a
skills.
true test of true test of their skill set, their knowledge.
Even those guys, they get a knife or a pot or something, so they're not really primitive. So I would say put someone in just a pair of shorts, because we don't want to see that, out in the wild. Let them make their own shoes. Let them flint knap a knife out of whatever rock they can find, and it becomes super challenging. I did something recently where I was confined to one area, and I'm used to being able to go wherever I want. I know where to drive to go pick up the flint, and I know where else to drive to get that best hurt board for a hand drill.
And the word is drive. You gotta.
Yeah, you gotta.
Not all your resources are in one area particularly.
That's the biggest thing that people forget. You can't survive anywhere. There's a reason why the indigenous people of all planets hollowed around certain areas, because you drive out in the West Desert, what are you going to do? I mean, there's mullein and sagebrush, so you can make a hand drill, but there's no water. Yeah, you can maybe kill some rabbits, but you have to move out of that area. So
you have to be willing to go to where the resources are.
Yeah.
And that's what survival is identifying the resources, going to the resources, and then traveling as needed to follow the resources. I mean, I'm originally from Idaho as well, southeastern Idaho.
Nice.
And
that's where the cool people hang out.
It's the best, right? Way to go, Idaho. But, up there we had Blackfoot, Idaho, and I'd go to the Mountain Men Rendezvous a few times that was up kind of by Yellowstone, and it was awesome because you learn about the cultures and how even the trappers, I mean, they would move all the time. They'd build a new cabin.
If they don't
build
move,
another
there's
cabin.
nothing left to track. They eradicated the whole thing,
And they were always moving, and then they were always moving to also trade, and the Indians were always moving to follow where the buffalo were, or to whatever their focus was.
Yeah,
Like
they had their
Blackfoot would follow
seasonal
buffalo.
places.
So how do we take this knowledge and knowing that our ancestors moved around for resources, and obviously we're stuck in one location? So how do we apply that, and how do we prepare for an event in particular? Because most of us can't bug out. We don't have a place to bug out to.
Well, here's the first thing I want to throw out. Very, very important to remember this. I don't care where you were born, where you're from, what your ethnicity is, what part of the planet you grew up in. Every single one of us have this same heritage. If you go back far enough, all of our ancestors did this. So at some time, no matter who we are, native or not, we had this as our history, and we've lost it. So first off, understand that, and then it will let you know that no matter who you run into, I love going to Rabbit Sick. The hippies sit next down to the Mormons, which sit next down to the soldiers, and they all sit there and they learn these same skill set because there's something that they've got in common. So to answer your question, where do you start? get the knowledge. Whenever you're going to eat an elephant, you do it one bite at a time. And I've done a bunch of talks on this. This is probably the most overwhelming thing about prepping or just any of this. It's like if I come to you and say, you need to learn math. Okay, well, you've done it already, so you know where you start, right? But if you've never known math and you try to learn math, that's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So pick something, and I usually like to say, go from the basics. You always, no matter where you're at, need fire, water, shelter, food, medical, security, and power. That's it. So fire is going to be your cooking, it's going to be your friend, it's going to be your heating, it's going to be boiling, purification. It's one of the higher things.
I love that you said friend as well, because it's a psychological advantage to have a fire.
Absolutely.
You know, as soon as you've got that fire, you feel
safe. Yeah.
Right?
You feel warm, you feel reflection, you're no longer just a scared human in the dark. So I usually have people start for two reasons with fire. One is because it's such a useful tool. It's like the knife of skill sets. It's the thing that you're always going to need.
Yeah.
And two, it's so rewarding and fulfilling to bust a coal with friction fire, to learn how to do a piston fire, flint and steel, you know, all of those other different ways, even a ferro rod. Doing it right and doing it repeatably in different environments and different humidity sets is super rewarding because it makes you comfortable and makes you feel like, you know, I got this. Even if it's an urban area. Was it in the 90s in Chechnya, if I'm saying the right place here? There was a city that was under siege, and people ended up having to pull up floorboards out of houses and use those for fire. They ran out of matches almost immediately. Because of this urban shutdown, they all had to go back to primitive skills in their houses.
Bosnia?
Bosnia,
Okay,
yes.
yeah. A year in hell.
Yeah.
Bosnia.
Yeah.
Story.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different stories about some of that. But
Mhm.
that's a perfect example of urban skills being used in bushcraft skills being
Primitive
used
skills
in an
using
urban
those.
environment. Exactly. So,
And when you talk about learning, it's not just book learning, not just watching videos. It's actually getting out and
It's application.
in
And
fact, that's
Because you don't
probably
learn
the
it.
least that it is.
Yeah, you
wanna
don't
make
learn
those
it until
videos.
you're doing it.
Exactly.
That's the problem. You have to have that tactile interaction.
Well,
Otherwise, you're not going
And
to
that's-
really absorb that knowledge.
yeah, that's when it becomes knowledge, like you say.
You don't
learn
know
how
what
to do
you're
it, but then
seeing. That's the problem. You don't know what you're looking at. Like if I watch someone play the piano, that doesn't mean that I can turn around and play the piano. It's
Right.
I see what's going on. I conceptually understand what I need to learn, but I don't know what key corresponds with what. There's missing elements. It's the same way with primitive skills with flint knapping and bow drills and hand drills. And I keep coming back to those because they're the easy ones. There's a bunch of stuff that you don't realize that you're looking at, like how to keep the spindle straight, how to keep the tip of the bow from dropping, which will cause your string to go up or down the spindle and buck it out, how to cut the notch the right width so that it doesn't blow out at the bottom, how to use the socket on the top properly. There's a bunch of these things that kind of work together. It's playing the fire fiddle because it actually takes skills. I mean, a bunch of things that you got to do.
All right, awesome. Here comes our music. You're listening to Scott and Shane here on Prepper Talk Radio, and our wonderful guest, Tyler White. We will come back after the break, and of course, say thanks to our sponsors, Survival Medical, survival-medical.com. We'll continue with this topic after these messages.
Good stuff.
Well,
Boom.
there's something
And we are back again on this wonderful Friday. You're listening to
Booyah.
Prepper Talk Radio. Here with Shane and Scott. Sponsored by Survival Medical, survival-medical.com. You've heard us speak many times about Survival
Absolutely. We can go on and on and on and on about it. In fact, we actually just did a video a couple weekends ago talking about their product. So you'll see that come online
Okay.
soon. You know, we're really good at prepping. Like, really good. Like, awesome. You know what I'm not really good at?
Medical. Video.
I am horrible at the new video software. I had to upgrade because my Mac 6 years old.
Okay, that-
It was ready for a change. I get a new Mac and I'm like, yeah, iMovie's totally different. So I'm like, oh, this sucks. So right now I'm in the learning curve of
Well, you know,
learning.
you know who's really good at video?
Who's that?
Our guest.
Our guest, yes. Well,
I
I'm
know that
switching
guy.
to Adobe. I'm doing the.
Okay. Tyler, what do you use for
What do
your
you
video?
use for your
I
content?
use Adobe. The problem with Adobe is you got to pay for it every year.
It's
But-
all. It's
True.
You don't have to download. You use it online, correct? It's just all.
Well, it
Yeah,
downloads,
It's like
but
an
Oh, does it?
app.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
basically, you download this little suite thing, which is kind of like your playlist, if you will. and then you download all of the individual, Premiere Pro or Audition or whatever it is that you need, or you can just buy the whole suite. But the positive is every time a new codecs come out or a new camera or a new something, they update all that.
Yep. So you're not having to chase software.
Yeah.
It's automatically. So I do the monthly subscription.
I got to hook up at Adobe. So
some
I do. I just haven't taken advantage of that yet.
You need to do that because it's like I mean it's
Yeah,
not
no, I
bad. It's a good price. It's just done. You have to pay for it every year, right?
Yeah,
All the software companies are changing to that because they make a ton more money.
Oh
This
yeah.
way.
Oh yeah.
Instead of
There's a
you
pirating
pay for it every
protection.
year instead of buy new software every couple of years.
Yeah.
I get a new disc, which I still like having the disc. When I go out and buy music, I'd like to have that disc.
Makes you feel like you own it.
Yeah, exactly. I own it. I can put it on whatever device I want. I can put
Can't you
it.
just download?
I'm still old school.
Just download it from iTunes and then burn it to a disk and be happy.
No, I can't. It's just I'd rather. I don't know. I'd rather have the original disc.
If you go out and buy the disc, though, then you get all the little collaterals that go with it, right?
Mhm.
You get the clamshell case, you get maybe the
Which
box
I just
if it's in
end
the
up
box,
recycling anyway, right?
Cool
right?
pictures.
But if you buy all the songs and download them, the bad thing about that is you don't get the cool case.
And then you can, of course, reuse that for other things.
Not really.
Is your headphones working there? No,
No.
they're not working. Nothing.
they just make my head warm.
No. All right. Well, you don't need them.
All right.
Well, thanks for listening today. We have a guest here. His name is Tyler White, and let's talk about a little bit about your background because I don't know it all, and it's pretty extensive. So let's take some time on that. Tell us what you do and why you're here in the studio. We're going to talk about bushcraft today. I mean, that's kind of our.
Let's go back.
for it,
Where did you meet Tyler? First of all, I met him at prepercon.
I met him at prepercon this last year. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I saw.
I've seen his videos,
in his videos. Yeah.
and I'm like walking down the main aisle. I'm
Blade
like,
HQ was the first place
hey,
I saw Tyler.
that's Tyler.
Yeah.
And he's hanging out with the Alone guys, Alan Kay, at the moment. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and Chris Weatherman's there, and I'm all.
How do you
And they know who Tyler was as he was walking up. I'm like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
And they're like, I know that guy. And then they all start talking.
And of course-
I got to come back and talk to him.
Of course, our buddies at Ready Man. I mean,
Of course.
I also knew Tyler through. I hadn't met him yet,
Yeah.
but I knew him through his videos there on Ready Man and Man Hacks and so forth. And so, tell us about what you do, who you are, and why you're here with us.
It's funny because PrepperCon's the only place that anyone's like, I know that guy. Everyone
I know.
else,
We've
everyone else
created-
is like, who are you? You know me, I'm kind of a big deal.
I still don't get that. So,
We've created this cool
Congratulations.
niche environment where the bushcrafters, the survivalists, the wilderness experts, and the prepper elites can find their fandoms. It's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah, no,
Like
it's
we have
true.
our own fandoms. We're not Comic-Cons. We're not all this other stuff. But in the world of prepping, there is a fandom.
Yeah, there
for
is.
different types
It's
of things.
small. It's like this little niche area. If I'm running into other survivalists, we all know each other. It's just such a small world. I mean, you're talking about Alan Kay. I know him because I know Nicole Pallion, and those two were together for a while. I'm not sure if they are now, but
They still
yeah,
do some projects together. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely do projects. But everyone kind of knows each other. They all go to the gatherings together. They all get called by the TV shows to come and do stuff.
which is very cool.
Yeah, it all gets kind of interesting. that way.
We're
Well,
still aspiring to that.
Well,
we want to at least
I
get
used
called,
to.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
we'd
I
like
used
to have
to.
the.
Now that I've got my first kid, my wife's like, "You're not going anywhere." And I'm like, "Yeah."
You're not doing a loan. You're not signing up for a loan.
If I'm gone for like 2 days, I'm like having heart palpitations. I miss my baby, right?
Mhm.
But if I were to be on a loan, which was one of my dreams, dude,
Mhm.
I'd be tapping out after day 3. I'm like,
Day 3.
I miss my kid. I miss my wife.
I've been
I gotta
camping
go
for
home.
3 whole days and I'm done.
I'm like, I built a castle out of wood, and now I gotta go home.
Well, I used to do that. Go and do a lot of, just exploring and caving, that kind of stuff. And I've gotten really to the point where, if I can't take my kids with me, I really don't care to go. I mean, it's like, sure, it'd be fun, but
I kind of found that when I was in Alaska. I guided in Alaska
Mhm.
long ago. I was up there for a couple seasons, and I got to the point where I was up seeing these beautiful things. I was flying to work in a helicopter every day. I was taking people hiking, and it was amazing. But I just kind of got this point in my life where, first, I didn't have any insurance. And then secondary, I wanted to share this with somebody. I wanted to share it with my family. And that is literally what drove me back from Alaska twice to actually get educated and get married and do all that fun stuff. But the outdoors are amazing, but you definitely want to share it with other
So
people.
you guided in Alaska,
I guided in Alaska.
and I know that you've also served in the military.
Yeah, I've been there since I was 17. So I guess let's do this way. I'm from southeastern Idaho, grew up
Okay.
in a ranch. So being a kid on a ranch where your closest neighbor is miles down the road, you play with cows and cats and squirrels and all sorts of
Sticks
other
and rocks.
You
sticks
start
and
building
rocks and
tribes. You
banjos
start,
and
yeah.
yeah, you know, and
It's a good life.
yeah, no, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that's where it all started. It was all kind of downhill from there. But that's part of why I joined the military is because
We'll have to talk about what down.
I was like,
Exactly.
that's not downhill. That's like down the rabbit hole.
down
Okay,
the
there we
I
go.
like
There
that.
we go.
I like
That's a little
that.
better.
No, I mean that's why I joined the military. I looked for any excuse to get paid to do stuff outside. That's why I ended up getting into law enforcement because of that. Pretty much everything has driven me to who's going to pay me to play around the mountains. I think that is what all boils back to. So
That's a good aspiration.
yeah,
I should have gone that route. I'm like, whoever will pay me so I can put food on my plate.
yeah,
And
I
get my-
got to that point
Yeah.
eventually.
And then I started focusing on how can I get fatter? How can I get fatter?
And then you want to go
It's a
how
survival
can I-
technique.
How can I
It's
get
a survival
skinnier?
technique.
No, now I'm like, how can I get rid of all this fat that I've been accumulating for the last 20 plus years? You know, it's what's interesting though is as
You
soon
moved to
as step
Venezuela. That's
outside-
what you do, right?
Oh no.
Nice.
That's coming our way anyway. So, my aspirations. It's funny because my wife is like, oh, I want to go on this trip to Greece with the rest of her family, and I'm like, in-law trips for me are like the word. It's not vacation. And we were talking about this last night. I'm like, I want to go see the 7 natural wonders of the world. I don't want to go see the 7 man-made crap garbage wonders. I don't want to go see, cultures
they're cool
are neat,
and all,
but I don't
but-
want to. I don't want to go see
Yeah.
Rome. I don't want to. It doesn't
Drive
really
through
matter.
on our
It
way to
fell,
something
so-
cool.
I saw pictures, and that's good enough for me. But
Mhm.
to go experience, Victoria Falls,
Oh, yeah.
in Zimbabwe, oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Just the
That kind of stuff.
the raw emotion behind nature that you
I
can
mean,
feel.
the ancient stuff like the pyramids, that'd be pretty cool. But
Meh.
I know
Yeah, it's
you
because it was
still-
done by hand.
Yeah.
There's something
And they
about
still don't
stuff
know
that was
exactly.
done by hand that's
Yeah.
just amazing.
Exactly, and so that's really ties into what you do, doing things by hand. So, okay, so you have military background, you have a law enforcement background. Most of the videos you do, so you have your do you have a website or just YouTube channel?
So I'm kind of spread all over the place. I find myself doing a lot of things for different companies, different people. My YouTube channel is TJack Survival. It's TJACK.
T-Jack,
Nope,
just T-Jack Survival.
TJACK space Survival.
Okay.
I tried to come up with a unique name. I have a friend that runs the channel, The Late Boy Scout. I hate typing in The Late Boy Scout. It's just huge. And I'm sure you guys know who he is. So I tried to come up with something that was one word. It was T-Jack, and it's a play on my first and middle name. So I was actually named after my grandpa, whose name was John, but everyone called him Jack. And I just didn't get that, so it's kind of a joke that, Tyler John or T-Jack is what the name of the channel
Okay.
is.
Cool.
So I did that, and then
I always assumed.
And what
it
is
was-
most-
He's
sorry.
a jack of all trades.
yeah, that would
Okay.
probably
I just
fit.
kind of because I'm like he could anything wilderness survival like
Yeah.
bow drills done.
So yeah,
Shelter's done.
what is the majority of your videos on there? Mostly bushcraft.
So
type
they're,
videos.
they're the things that I'm most interested in. Ironically, like I've been asked to do a ton of shooting videos, and I've shot and done so much gun related
Firearm
stuff
stuff.
shooting for so long that I just kind of burned out on it. I really didn't want to have any more pistol videos and rifle videos. That's actually probably what I'm best at.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah, there is, but what I really wanted to do was to expand my survival skills. I kind of got to this point in life where I realized that I have all this military experience, and the military is just a constant succession of training, then get your deployment, and do it again. But for the most part, it's just constant training. And you get to this point where you're doing the same stuff again, or you're teaching, and then you're teaching the same stuff again and again and again. And it's not fun. And I tried to expand on that. Like I can pack a ruck and do land navigation and noise and light discipline and all that fun stuff all day long. But what happens when you take all the gear away? And that's what drove me to search for the primitive skills. The answer is you either starve to death or you use what's around you. But if you don't have the knowledge on how to use what's around you, you starve to death. I mean, that's kind of the way that goes. So that's what drove me to primitive. And primitive, I really feel should be the base education level for every single thing you do, from prepping to survival to even just the outdoors. Like I was elk hunting a few years ago, and I was going to be up there by myself for about 5 days. And I was about a day deep into the mountains, and all my camp was set up, and I'm getting ready to go to sleep at night, and I don't have a lighter. I mean, it's just a simple thing that I forgot, but my first impulse was, oh no, I need to go home and hike down to that and get that lighter. Then I thought, why? I'll just go make a bow drill, and about 45 minutes later, I had fire. And there's something about that is incredibly liberating to realize it is nice to have the gear. I'm all for the gear, but I don't need it. Need
Yep.
becomes irrelevant when you have a skill set. So
Or at least it becomes more minimalistic.
That's another thing
We have
too,
these
yeah.
big old huge bug out bags that
Yeah.
you can't even carry.
you don't need 90% of that stuff because it's already out there in the mountains. People aren't really thinking about the fact you don't need 10 gallons of water. You need, even in the desert, you can get away with 1-2 liter, which is a half a gallon device, as long as you know how to procure it and boil it. And then it comes down to the correct gear selection. Like that device, whatever it may be, needs to be metal. That way you can boil whatever it is that you've got. That's your fallback. In the mountains, you're not worried about pulling chemicals out of the water. You're worried about killing livestock, right?
Yeah.
Now,
So-
and I think the fact is that most of us don't find us in those types of, in the mountains by ourselves. So when we go, we take stuff with us because we're going to go backpacking. We take our stoves and that kind of stuff with us. But I know you also focus on urban survival as well.
Yeah,
and that's where most of us find ourselves. And that's one thing I want to talk with you more about as well as the primitive stuff. Because like you say, the primitive is kind of the base layer. It's where you start.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, you
It's
kind of
your
go back to
fallback.
your
Well, it's-
caveman
yeah.
instinct, right?
And for a lot of people, it's not where you start,
Yeah.
but it's where you
Right, no,
if you
for-
don't
yeah,
start
foundation.
there.
Exactly.
It's your foundation.
Yes, it's the foundation that a lot of people forget about,
Mm-hmm.
and then they end up finding that they've got to go back and
They
learn
go back
that.
to it, yeah.
You know.
If they don't start there, then they're going to find themselves in a position like I was without that lighter. And it's a simple thing like a big lighter. That shouldn't ruin your whole trip. But to be honest with you, I needed it to heat. I have a hot tent on my stove. I needed to heat my stove. My primary food source was going to be one MRE and then fish. I was going to live off fish that week.
Mhm.
I can't be up there eating raw fish. I have no way to. It's my backup for water purification because I did bring a filter.
Yeah.
But that one little device shuts down my whole plans.
Mhm.
And even though it wasn't exactly a survival situation, because I could just hike out or I could, there's a bunch of stuff, it's still, all these primitive skills become relevant in every outdoor, to include urban area that you come up with. The thing that people forget is there's plants in the urban area. In fact, some of the best places I've found to find wild edibles and bow making material and that type of stuff is in the urban areas, because the urban areas were built around the rivers and they were built around the old homesteading areas. So there's invasive plant species that we as humans brought along to eat.
We call a lot of them weeds.
Yeah, well, you call them weeds, but what's a weed? It's just a plant
Exactly.
in the wrong spot.
There you go. It interferes with our landscape.
It doesn't look pretty here, and I gotta move it. So, like as an example, I got a little patch of purslane that my wife considers weeds, and I tell her to leave it alone because I eat it all the time, but it's growing right in the front of my yard. So, there's purslane there. Everybody has this ornamental yucca that grows in their yards around here, which is, ornamental yucca is something, it's a grocery store plant, so you can make string out of it, you can make hand drills,
Yeah.
bow drills.
Well, there's our
soap
music.
out of the root.
We're going to run off to break here real quick, but let's jump right back into that after the break. Thanks for joining us here on Prepper Talk Radio, here on K-Talk AM 1640. And our sponsor, Survival Medical, survival-medical.com. Check them out. See you on the other side of the break.